With that down, let's move on to this. Fantastic Four came out, of course, last weekend, and it had a solid opening weekend, especially considering the circumstances about nobody cares about Fantastic Four. It's kind of an out-of-date property. All the previous iterations have been terrible and failed and all that kind of stuff. And it came out and made well over $100 million at the box office opening weekend. It was solid. But question was, how is it going to do in its second weekend? Now, one of the things we looked at that made us think that the second weekend could be pretty good was numbers like this. 87%. I mean, the people clearly really enjoy this movie. I know I loved it. 87% critic rating. More importantly, though, 92% audience rating. I think audience ratings are very hard to read, but I don't really care about them unless they're under 60 or over 90.
Yeah.
If it's under 60, I think that's notable. If it's over 90, I think that's notable. But 92% A- cinema score, just like Superman did. So the question had been going into the second weekend, how would it do? And it didn't have a great second weekend. Now, it was still, if I bring over this chart here and take a look at this, it was still number one at the box office, and it still made $40 million. That's great. I mean, that puts it in the top tier of the biggest opening weekends for a lot of films this year. Made $40 million, outgrossing Bad Guys at $22 million. Disappointed that The Naked Gun didn't do better. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to make $40 million opening weekend, but I was hoping better for this because it's a pretty damn funny movie. Superman in its like fourth weekend, still made another 13.9, only took a 44% drop, whatever. But here's the number that everybody's talking about. 66% drop. 66% drop. Now, this is surprising because, again, if you look at the Bad Guys and you look at Naked Gun, it's not like Bad Guys or Naked Gun was eating up all the box office. The number 2 and number 3 movies combined made $39 million, which is less than what Fantastic Four made, but that means the number 2 and number 3 movies combined only ate up $39 million of box office. It's not like the second place movie made $39 million and the third place movie made $35 million for it ate up $70-80 million of box office. Only $39 million eaten up because of the number 2 and number 3 films. And also surprising, again, because of those numbers that we just looked at. High 80% rating critically. 92% audience rating. A- cinema score. Audiences like this movie. It's a statistical fact. Audiences like this movie. Critics like this movie. It's a fun time. I still haven't gotten around to seeing it for a third time yet. Ann and I both want to. I've seen it twice. I want to see it for a third time. But it took a significant 66% drop. Now, to put that into perspective, this marks the 8th biggest drop that Marvel's had. Not its biggest drop, not its second biggest drop, but as we pull up this chart here, its 8th biggest drop. Of course, the biggest drop, I still shake my head about this. The Marvel's having a 78.1% drop. And I still contend that is not a terrible movie. Certainly not one of their better ones, but I don't think it's a terrible movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was a terrible movie, took nearly a 70% drop. Captain America: Brave New World took a 68.3% drop, also not a very good movie. Black Widow took a 67.8% drop. Thor: Love and Thunder took a 67.7% drop. Spider-Man: No Way Home took a 67.5% drop. Now, a lot of people will look at that one and say, wait a minute, Spider-Man: No Way Home made almost $2 billion. Why did it have such a big second weekend drop-off? The reason that movie had such a massive second weekend drop-off is because of just how big the opening weekend was. Like, literally everybody saw that movie on opening weekend. So you were going to have a significant second weekend drop-off. Anyway, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. 67% drop. And then down in the number 8 spot now, Fantastic Four takes a 66% drop. A little bit more than Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, that took a 63.3, and in Eternals, it took a 67 or 62.3. So 8th biggest drop-off in Marvel history. And I would argue this. I think that Fantastic Four movie, I think it might be the second best movie on this list. I think I might put Eternals a little bit in front of it. Now, Granted, I like Eternals more than most people do. I think you do as well, Rob. I think
Yeah.
you and I like that movie more than most people do. But quality-wise, I would put this movie on equal playing field with Spider-Man No Way Home. I might even say I enjoyed this movie a little bit more than Spider-Man No Way Home. So anyway, 8th biggest drop. If you want to put into context of how that's done, though, if you want to put a positive spin on it, if you wanted to put a positive, here's the positive spin you can put on it. Look at these numbers. This is the last number of MCU movies that have come out. Now, if you take Deadpool and Wolverine out of the equation, which was a very special film for a lot of special reasons, that made $1.3 billion. It's made more than 4 movies ago, The Marvels. It's going to make more money than Captain America: Brave New World, and it's going to make more money than Thunderbolts. I mean, it's only in its second week, just finished the second weekend, just crossed its 10 days. And it's already at 368. It's going to make more than all those. If you wanted to put a positive spin on it, you can say, with the hit and miss, on again, off again, mediocre quality output that Marvel's been putting out, well, this is going to be bigger than anything they've put out in the last couple of years. And it's a sign that Marvel could be heading back in the right direction, building off of the quality that Thunderbolts had. That's a legitimate way to look at it. That's a positive spin if you want to look at it. But still, Rob, you can't get around the fact that it is a 66% drop.
Yeah.
For a movie that was well received.
Right.
And didn't have a lot coming out against it this weekend. So anyway, you look at these numbers. What's your takeaway from it? What's the worst way of looking at this? What's the best way of looking at it? How do you see it?
Well, I think the worst way of looking at it is that it had a 66% drop. But on the other hand, here's my positive take on this. I mean, it's still, according to, Box Office Mojo, as I had here, the worldwide gross of it right now is $368 million.
Right.
And change, almost 370.
10, 11 days into its release.
Yeah. It's going to play out for the rest of the month. And depending, we've seen movies like something like Greatest Showman just was a consistent earner. It didn't do very well its opening weekend and continued to play. I would imagine that Superman and Fantastic Four will continue to do business throughout the month. But remember, I look at this is now phase 6. This is the beginning of a new phase in the Marvel, starting with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was like the end of phase 5 or whatever. This is the beginning of phase 6. So you have to look at this as in my mind, it's a new reset. All those other movies are from post-Endgame films. Deadpool and Wolverine is an anomaly. I don't count that.
Yeah, that was a very special set of circumstances with a very special conglomeration of...
Yeah, and you're dealing... You also had the 25 years of the 24 years of the X-Men and Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine that predates the Marvel Cinematic Universe by a long way. And then you had the friendship that him and Ryan Reynolds had. So that's an anomaly. But this is the beginning of... This is ramping up. The real telltale sign for me is I think this movie's going to end up being just fine. I know everyone online screaming out, it's another failure for Marvel. It's not really in this, because if you're looking at, like you pointed out, all the numbers to all the DC Universe movies prior to Superman, the superhero genre is, I don't call it fatigue, but it's old. I mean, if you think about it, between two companies, how many superhero movies have we had since 2008? 50? 60? I mean, of just the same genre of film. And it's like, it's not that it's fatigued. It's like there's only so many stories you can tell within a superhero paradigm. There's superheroes and there's villains. And I think Thunderbolts was interesting because it had something more to say. It did something different with the paradigm, with the genre, and looking for feelings or whatever. Now, what I find interesting is Fantastic Four is leading into Spider-Man, that's leading into Avengers Doomsday, that's leading into Secret Wars.
By the way, if I remember just for seconds, I think there's an important note because of something you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So this weekend also, Sony has verified and confirmed they are keeping that release date. That's interesting because you guys will remember that originally Doomsday was going to come out before Spider-Man Brand New Day. They moved Doomsday, and a lot of people have speculated that they might also move Spider-Man to still come out after Doomsday. Sony has doubled down and confirmed they're keeping that summer of next year release date. So it is indeed coming out before Doomsday and will lead into it.
Yeah. And so Fantastic Four is probably going to at least earn $500 million, I would imagine, overall. Probably pretty easy. Maybe even $600 million. which puts it might not be the runaway hit, but I don't think they expected this movie to gross $1 billion. It's coming off of why would you think that? Fantastic Four movies have not traditionally, this is outgrossed the two Tim Story Fantastic Fours, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, it's outgrossed all the previous Fantastic Four movies, but most importantly too, it's in not as dire, but it's in a little bit of a somewhat similar situation that Superman was in.
Yeah.
Since Endgame. And guys, I am no Marvel hater. I'm just calling it as I see it, okay? Marvel has been, since Endgame, to put it generously, hit or miss. Gone are the days that every MCU film that was coming out, we expected to be awesome. We now live in the era where every MCU movie that comes out, we hope is good. And it's dealing with that. And again, I just want to bring this chart up again, one quick second here. Again, taking Deadpool and Wolverine out of the equation for all the reasons you listed, Rob. I think the quality of Thunderbolts and the quality of this movie, because this movie's going to end up over 500 million.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets to 6.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's going to end up over 500 million, which will be the highest grossing movie they've had in years. It shows that at least they've got things rebuilding and they're heading back in the right direction, because you can't put out 6 years of mediocrity and not suffer consequences. The question is, can you rebuild from those consequences? I think Thunderbolts was the first step in that. And then Fantastic Four. Again, I'm still kind of shocked by the 66% drop. There's no painting that pretty. A 66% drop is a 66% drop. But it at least shows that the MCU is heading back in the right direction.
Yeah, but I would also say another thing you have to take into consideration is you have to go look at the first films of all of their characters. Like whether it's Captain America, Iron Man made 500 million plus because it was the beginning of the thing. But if you go back and you look at Captain America, Thor, I mean, Black Panther was the first introductory movie, but that was teed up by Civil War. So you had people who already met Black Panther. But these new characters, the first time we meet them, I think you have to more equate, you have to look at those box office numbers, because traditionally, I even think about those intro movies. It is like Captain America, the First Avenger. I think Doctor Strange did like 600 million, 600. It didn't make 700 million. It made 600 and something because he was a new character. And to me, Fantastic Four, you have to think, you got to look at something like a Doctor Strange where a character has not been introduced in the MCU yet, and look at those numbers, because we don't know who these people are. We haven't had a chance to develop an affection for them, and we're coming off of 3 previous Fantastic Four movies that people were not that excited about. So in my mind, they did everything they could to launch this new super team. And that I think that when people catch up with this on cable and they see it as it plays out through its lifetime, it's on Disney Plus or whatever, people might develop more of an affection for this film. So by the time they decide to do Fantastic Four 2, or we see Reed Richards again and the team in Avengers Doomsday, people are going to like them a lot more, because they will have engendered the love in the audience that the audience doesn't have yet.
Yeah, I think right now, Spider-Man Brand New Day, which doesn't come out for almost a year, is in a much better place already, because Thunderbolts was very well received. Again, nobody knew any of the characters. Half of them were all reject Disney Plus show characters, whatever, but the movie was great. So you finally had, because it was coming off a really disappointing Captain America movie, in my opinion, but you had a great Thunderbolts movie. You have what I think is a great Fantastic Four movie. And now you're seeing that in the box office. The box office is starting to get higher. I think all this bodes very well for Spider-Man No Way Home. I think when Spider-Man, or Brand New Day, I should say, when Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out, I think you're going to start to see the return to the traditional Marvel box office numbers that we've become accustomed to. And then and it's a big if that movie's great, sky's the limit for what Doomsday can be. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree, because, people are going to catch up with Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts on streaming. And they're going to have good times with those films. They're going to enjoy their time with those movies. And it's going to lead up to Spider-Man, over the course of the next 11 months. And I think people will once again find that both Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, those are fun. Those are fun for the whole family in a way. And I think that they'll bring that back, I hope. The real problem is, I think the real problem that all superhero movies have is just the paradigm of a superhero movie. when superheroes have to fight supervillains. There's not a lot of room to move. I mean, Fantastic Four offered something interesting. Galactus was not your traditional mustache twirling villain,
Right.
and neither was the Sentry. And so there was more ways to move, and I think that Avengers Doomsday is going to have a different feel in that, sure, Doctor Doom's a villain, but he has a plan. He's going to be more like, there's going to be much more palace intrigue happening than just like, we have to defeat the bad guy. There's going to be a lot more going on because the bad guy is like, I'm going to remake the world in my own image, and he's going to succeed for a while. And it's going to be interesting. And you're going to see the X-Men fighting the Avengers, fighting the whomever, and Doom making Battle World, and the Loki, and the TVA, and whatever the hell is going to happen. So I think people are going to be interested.
By the way, I want to address this because one of our viewers in the live chat, DeToad, wrote, it's going to have Hulk and Punisher, talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's going to have Hulk and Punisher. Of course, everybody's going to go to see it. Based on what? Hulk was in She-Hulk. Not everybody watched that.
Yeah.
Punisher was just in Daredevil again. It had lower ratings than Agatha all along. I'm sorry, this idea that just put in these characters and everybody's going to go to see it, that's been proven false over and over and over again. So just throwing Hulk in it ain't going to completely move the needle. It can be good. Putting Punisher in it, that's exciting to me, but people didn't flock to watch the new Daredevil season just because Punisher was in it. They just didn't. I mean, that's a fact. That's a statistical fact. I love Hulk. I love Punisher. But yeah, if you think just dropping them in that movie means everybody's going to go to see it, that ain't true. That's simply statistically not true. I mean, everybody will go see it because hopefully the MCU's building up again. They're reestablishing their reputation of quality, hopefully. And hopefully that movie's going to be great. But if you think just dropping in Punisher or Hulk is going to automatically equal everybody's going to go to see it, according to what? Show me any data point that shows that's true. And I just don't think it exists yet. But I still think it's good that they're going to be in there, though.
Yeah.
Makes me excited. But I was going to see the movie anyway.
Well, I'm excited from story potential. It's going to be, I think, a movie that's going to be more grounded, and he's really going to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and there doesn't have to be some world-ending cataclysm. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to focus more on Peter Parker establishing who he is now in the world. I find that really interesting. Take the Spider-Man out of it. How does Peter Parker navigate the world when he's been erased from existence?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting... I mean, that would be an interesting movie to make that has nothing to do with the MCU, that somebody wakes up one day and they find out their entire existence has been erased. They don't know why, but what do you do? What do you do? How do you go get an ID when you have no way to prove you're alive?
I know
That's
people.
interesting. Yeah, I know you. Well...
They'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this turn of events with the Fantastic Four box office? Again, if you want to look at it from a positive point of view, hey, this is a growing box office. It's done better than, again, aside from the Deadpool movie, which is a bit of an anomaly, you take all the previous MCU movies that come out recently, and it's going higher than all of them. It's going to be the first one to cross 500 million in a while. They're rebuilding their quality. But if you want to take off the rose-colored glasses, though, it's still a 66% drop.
Yep.
A 66% drop, which marks the 8th biggest drop of any MCU movie. And that's despite the fact that it had really high critic ratings and extremely high audience ratings. Not the best sign. Anyway, however you guys choose to look at that, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.